Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to An Orange Life. Thanks for tuning in. This is Deanna. Thank you to new subscribers. I see we picked up some new friends along the way, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for commenting. I really appreciate you guys. Okay, let's get started. As promised, the psychology of siblings. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with talking about only child children first, and it's going to be brief because it's not a lot that I can say about only children. Well, also I can only say but so much in this video anyway, because I'm only got a little over 30 minutes. So let's see what we can do, guys. All right, now, only child children, usually only child children, they have, let me tell you the characteristics of only child children because I can usually spot them. They're usually entitled. They usually want attention, or when I say want attention, they're used to getting all the attention. So there's someone who wants to have, attention in a group. Um, Sometimes they can be overachievers. It depends on the family background and what's going on. Um, the thing with only children is whatever they go through in life, it's always doubled. And the reason why I say that it's doubled is because they have no siblings to break up some of the things that children go through when they're growing up. For example, say for example, you broke a dish at home or whatever, there's no sibling to lie on to say that the other kid did it. And or y'all can conspire against your parents and say y'all both don't know, or whatever. So only child children usually get, you know, uh, everything doubled because there's nobody else around. For example, if an only child gets punished, they get, the punishment is usually going to be one or two things. It's either going to be very light or very severe because they're the only child. So when kids usually do stuff, when you have siblings, the kids usually get punished. This was punished, that was punished, what y'all do, this and that. But that doesn't happen to only child children. So also with only child children, they have difficulty understanding the relationships with their spouses that have siblings. They don't, especially the women. The women have a harder time with their husbands having siblings because of depending on the dynamic of the spouse's family. For example, I'm just going to use myself, instead of using other people. My brother's wife is an only child, and they've been married for a long time. Because my nephew was in his 30s, so they've been married over 30 years. And my brother and I are very close. We're 9 months apart, and growing up it was always me and him. Now I do have other siblings, but my brother and I were 9 months apart, and we're the oldest. Our other two siblings are much younger than us, so it was just us for a very long time. So we're very, very close. I mean, very close. I mean, we talk on the phone every day to this day. Like, we're, both older, of course, and we talked on the phone every single day, even now. And she has difficulty dealing with our relationship. For example, my sister-in-law and I have had disagreements in the past about different things, and my brother always takes my side, not because just to take my side against his wife, but number one, I was always right. But and secondly, well, that was the main reason. I was always right. But in reality, he's supposed to side with his wife and just tell me on the side, sis, I know you were right. However, that's my wife. He never did that. No, I'm not saying that it was right for him to do that, because like I just said, he should have taken her side, and then behind the scenes tell me, listen, sis, I know you was right, but that's my wife. I gotta side with her. But he doesn't do that. My brother has always sided with me when things have happened. So her and I have had like our love hate relationship all these years. I mean, we've gotten better now, we're older, but the first like 10 years were like really difficult because whenever I needed, like, I didn't call my brother for things. I would just have a conversation with them, and I would say, "Oh, I need to do this, or I need to do that." And he'd be like, "Oh, I'll do it, or I'll be over, or I'll do it." And he'll come over and just do it. And she didn't like that. She doesn't like that he would always jump for me, even though I didn't ask him to. But what she's not understanding is that my brother and I have that dynamic. We've looked out for each other since we were, very young. We're 9 months apart. So we've always had each other's backs throughout life. So I think, she just, doesn't like, the dynamic that we have. But I'm just using myself as an example about an only child. She can't understand the dynamic between siblings. And because if she had siblings, things probably would have been handled differently. Because when you're an only child, you don't know how to compromise. I'm not saying you don't know it all, but I'm just saying for the most part, as an only child, you don't have to compromise a lot in your home because you're the only one. So, this is why only child children, they have difficulty sometimes in life because of the fact that they never had to share anything. So when you don't have to share anything, it makes it very difficult. Because I have a cousin that is an only child, and she really did not. She was somebody that did not share, and she was very spoiled. Oh my God, she was very spoiled. She got way more than what I ever got growing up, and that's because I had siblings. And she always had the best parties and all the clothes and just all the things. Her mom went out for her for every single thing, like it was just over the top. And she started traveling the world at a young age. She was on cruise ships at 9 years old and stuff like that. So, I didn't do that kind of travel until I got older. But again, this is what happens with only child, children. They get, that all the attention. Now, on the negative side of it, if you have toxic parents and you're an only child, that's very dangerous. That's very dangerous because if you have no one in your home other than your parents who are toxic, they're feeding you all of this information or treating you a certain way. And usually these children are the ones that grow up to be the serial, unalivers of the world and things like that. Because if I'm not mistaken, if you I I'm sure it's not all of them, but there are quite a few. If you look at the history of some serial unalivers, some of them have been only children, and for the ones that weren't only children, they didn't grow up in the home with their siblings. They were spread apart or whatever. So like I said, only child children, they have a different mentality than children that grow up with siblings because of how they are treated by their parents. So it all depends. It depends if you're a boy or a girl, if you have both parents, and what type of parents you have. If you're having a positive experience growing up or a negative experience, regardless on which experience you have, the entitlement is still there because the only child gets all the attention, whether it's positive or negative. So, only child children usually grow up doing things that, if they feel they're not getting the attention, then they create the attention. And I'm not saying that it in a bad way all the time. It's just that only child children are used to just everything is about them because there's nobody else as far as the parents are concerned. And sometimes with other family members, especially if that child was hard to conceive. If the child was hard to conceive and they only have one child and the parents have one child, that child is just totally rotten because this is what the parents always wanted. So this child will definitely be crazy spoiled. So that's about as much as I can say about only child children. I could go a little deeper on a separate video and do a lot of examples, But it's just not that deep to go into, really. So I'm going to move on to siblings now. Now, with siblings, when you start having more than two children in a family, you got you a problem, because you're going to have the middle child syndrome. Then it's the youngest and the oldest. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use celebrity families as my examples. Now, I want to start with the Wayans brothers. Let's start with the Wayans. The Wayans come from a family of 10. Their parents are still together. And the Wayans brothers, we have not heard anything like really bad about them over the years. As far as, you don't hear any of the Wayans coming out like, talking bad about the other ones. You don't hear none of that. You don't hear the fights. You don't hear, financial issues. You don't hear none of that out of the Wayans camp. And if you look at the Wayans family, it's 10 of them, and the oldest one, his name is Dwayne. Keenan is not the oldest. Keenan is the second to the oldest, and Kim is the youngest Wayne. If I'm not mistaken, I think I wrote it down because I did look it up. And yeah, Damon is Dwayne is the oldest, and yeah, Keenan is the second child, and Kim is actually the youngest. And what the Wayans family has done it's remarkable. Actually, I actually did some research on them, and they have the whole family is in the business, every last one of them, and now they're bringing in the next generation, because Damon Wayans has a show now, Papa's House, with his son. So, and then there somebody, I think it's Keenan. It might be Dwayne. I'm not Dwayne. Damon's other son that's doing stand up. There's another Wayans that's doing stand up right now, and then he has his other son on his show with him. So they're ushering in the new generation of Wayans, because also they're doing some writing behind the scenes and things like that. The next generation of Wayans. Now let's talk about this with the siblings. Dwayne is the oldest brother, but Dwayne is not the one that got them to Hollywood. Keenan is the next one. Now, what did he? Okay, what Dwayne does do with the family, he does writing and producing. But Keenan was the one that got the family the big break in the first place. And then once he got his big break, that's when he started putting his whole family down. So that's when we started seeing Kim and all the other ones. So usually with siblings, the oldest child usually sets the tone. It's usually the oldest child that the other children look up to or try to measure themselves up to, because usually the first child, and I did some research and I went through a lot of articles, and what I found out was firstborn children are parents' favorite child, whether they want to admit it or not. And it's not because they don't love their other children. That's not what it is. What it is that the firstborn child is the first experience for parents. Usually, we're going to go the traditional route. I'm not going to go into the baby mama stuff and all that. Usually, traditionally, a couple gets married and then they start having children. So if you're a newlywed couple or a new couple and you bought your home and now you're having your first baby, that firstborn is going to be the favorite, because it's the new experience child. Like, everything is new. It's your first time experiencing childbirth. It's your first time being up all night doing feedings. The first one to walk, the first one to talk. So all the firsts are with that first child. And because you have all the firsts with that first child, especially the anticipation of the child coming, and what does the child look like, and just all the things that come with having a baby, this is what happens. So it's not that, I'm not going to say that parents do favor the first child, but not in the way that you think that they do. They favor the child because the emotions tied to that child is different from the emotions from the rest of the children. Now, as we get to the middle child, the second child born, it like I said, when you go beyond two children, because your second child, if you don't have that third, that's your youngest. So I'm gonna go with for this video's purpose, I'm gonna go with three kids or more, so I can get my point out. So the middle child, by the time the second child comes along, the parents already know what to do. So the things that they did for the first child, they're not feeling those same emotions and feelings, and they're not doing the same type of activities. It's a different thing. You don't feel like your thought process is not like it was the first time because the pregnancy is not new to you. What you're going through is not new to you. So by the time you have your second child, you're still tired from the first child, unless your children are 10 years apart or something, because after you get the first one out and they walking and talking, and then you got another baby, you're kind of tired. You already know what to do. So you're not on high alert like you was with the first child. So the second child does not get as much attention. And then we're going to add this component. When you have a second child, the first child gets jealous. So what happens? The parents have to give the first child even more attention because the first child was used to being an only child, and then here comes another a child in the house. So again, the first child has to be reassured of their place in the home. That's even more attention. So that means the second child gets a little bit neglected, and I don't mean neglected in a bad way where they're not feeding or taking care of the child. I mean they're not, every time the child makes a tiny sound, they're not jumping up and running like you did the first child, because you know what it is now. So by the time you get to the third child, and I'm going to leave it at three. We always know people have more than that, but just at this point, I'm going to say three. That's your youngest. You're not having any more children. Usually, a third child usually is there some years apart. The first and second child could be anywhere from 9 months, like myself, to a year or two, apart. But that third child is usually a little longer than the other two in many cases. There's usually a 4 to 5 year gap before that last child is born. So by the time the third child is born, you probably have, you say, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and then you're getting ready to have another one. And see, by this time, your oldest one, and if he's a boy, and we got two parents in the house, the father definitely got some kind of sports thing going on with him. And, in most men, they're little boys, they get a certain age, they start putting, sports things in their hands, balls and bats and golf clubs and tennis rackets, all kinds of things. They start putting them in their boys' hands. So by this time, your 10-year-old is on somebody's team and you're a soccer mom. Your middle child is doing whatever because now you got a younger one. Now you got a newborn baby and you got a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. So you're dragging a newborn baby to the 10-year-old's T-ball game, not t-ball, at 10 he's older, to his bat softball game, and you got the 5-year-old who's just along for the ride because they was like, listen, what about me? And then you got the baby who needs attention. So this is why the middle child doesn't get the attention that the oldest and the youngest child does, because the middle child gets the brunt of the stick, I guess you could say. The oldest child got all the attention because they were born first. The youngest child gets all the attention, gets the other half of the attention because they're the youngest and the parents ain't having no more child. And the middle child is always the one that's trying to prove themselves and try to figure things out. The middle child is usually the quiet child. The middle child is really the sleeper of the family. And when I say sleeper, a middle child can go either way. A middle child can be very successful, or a middle child can turn out to be some sort of deviant, drug addicted, nut job, because of what happens in a family dynamic with siblings. Because usually this is how it goes. Let's use another family, the Braxtons. Tony is the oldest girl, and Tony Braxton has had a excellent career. Very beautiful woman, beautiful songstress. I love her music. I have like maybe five, six of her songs in my playlist. So matter of fact, I just listened to her today. So, and you have Tony as the oldest and Tamar as the youngest, and we can see it. If you have watched the Braxtons, you can see that whole dynamic. The girls in between, Tracy, Tawanda, and Trina, they do not question Tony, but Tamar does. And that's because Tamar is the youngest. Because Tamar is the youngest, she was allowed to do whatever she wanted to do. She could mouth off, do whatever she wanted. And it shows because Tamar is very outspoken, very entitled. She wants the attention all the time. And that's because when Tamar was little, she was probably fighting for her attention because there's so many other girls in the home. So she probably wanted to be seen and heard. And Tony is the oldest, and she set the tone. She was the one that became the celebrity. And then you have the Tracy, Tawanda, and Trina, which are the middle sisters. And as you can see, Tracy was treated horribly when she first came on the show. I thought that was disgusting. God, Lord, have that woman rest in peace. Excuse me. And Trina had issues that nobody was paying attention to because Trina stayed drunk the first season, and Tawanda, child, that husband she had, that was just a mess. Tawanda to me was just a mess to me. She was just a mess to me. And so this is what happens. Tony was the star. Tamar is the breakout star because she's the baby, and then you had the girls in the middle. Now, I'm gonna talk about another family, and then I'll break it down a little bit. I'm getting close to running out of time. The Jacksons. You have how many Jacksons was it? Five, six, seven, eight. What, nine, 10 kids? I can't count off here. It was a Jackson five, and then you had Rebe, Latoya, and Janet. So it was eight. Maybe nine. I don't know, but eight. But uh, when you look at the Jacksons, the older boys, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Jackie is the oldest Jackson. Let me see, because I thought I looked it up. Yeah, Jackie is the oldest, and Janet is the youngest. But see, the older boys were playing instruments. So I didn't really dig deep into how the boys start playing instruments before Michael came along. Because when Michael came along, Michael didn't play not one instrument. Michael was the charismatic little guy in the group that got everybody's attention. So, I don't know when the father started teaching, the boys how to play instruments, but that's what the older boys were doing. And then here comes Michael. And Michael is not even the youngest boy. Randy is. Yeah, Randy's the youngest boy. And so Michael had all the charisma and he's the breakout star. Janet is the youngest girl. So she is the next star. See, Janet became a star also on her own because if you remember, Rebe tried to have a career, Latoya tried to have a career. It didn't stick, but Janet did. So again, they probably put a lot, Michael probably helped Janet a lot. They probably poured a lot into her because they saw that she was also the breakout star. Michael and Janet were the stars of the family. So that's why I said I was using the Jacksons and the Braxtons as examples. Now we're going to look at this a little deeper. Both families had both parents at home, except the Braxtons, the parents divorced, while there were some girls that were still underage and when they divorced. And but the Jacksons, their parents were together up until, each of them passed away. And both families had some issues within the home as far as the marriage is concerned, which caused problems with the children because there's a lot of dysfunction with the Braxtons and there's was a lot of dysfunctions with the Jacksons. It was a lot of stuff going on. Now we don't hear anything about the Wayans because when you have multiple siblings, three or more siblings, and you have parents that could possibly be, toxic or have some issues, This is why you have the dynamics that you're having with the Braxtons and the Jacksons, because there was things going on in both camps where they need some real therapy, and they real therapy. So because the Braxtons, they had some stuff going on with them that's still going on now, because you could see it with Tamar just spiraling all over social media like at least once a week. And then you have, the Jackson family with Michael, his death, his unaliving, was weird behind that. And then we recently lost, one of the other Jackson boys, men rather. And so there's some stuff going on in these families. Tracy passing, there was a lot of controversy around her arrangements and what happened with her towards the end of her life. So that's why I said parents play a key role when you have multiple children like that. Now when you have three or more children, there's always going to be some jealousy. There's going to be some jealousy, and there's going to be some break off amongst the siblings, because that's just how it is. Take three kids for example. Let's say that the first one is a boy and he's athletic. The second one is a girl and she's a bookworm. The third one is a boy and he likes video games. So what normally happens is there's going to be one child that's going to be bratty, that usually kind of gets their way, and it's usually going to be the younger one or the oldest one. That's usually how it goes. The middle child usually has to like ping pong themselves to kind of get what they want. Like they'll side with the younger one when it's something that they want, that coincides with the younger one want, and they'll side with the older one when it's something that coincides with the older one want. So usually that's how that works. And then as they grow up, what happens is if it is expected for the oldest child to be successful. That is something that the other children, like when you're in a family and the oldest child, becomes an adult and starts going out there in the world, it's not surprising for the oldest child to be a success, because the parents always put into that first child. You got to remember the first child is the favorite. So if the first child is the favorite, the other kids see that. So for the oldest brother or oldest sister to be the famous one, it's like, oh, okay, that's expected. Usually the middle children, they have to find their way. That's why I said middle children always have to find their way. The oldest and the youngest usually have doors open for them or allowances made for them by family, friends, things like that. And this is why you have the power dynamics between the siblings, and why you have some siblings that just can't get along at all, some that are inseparable like me and my older brother. And what's crazy is me and my older brother are the closest, and we have younger siblings. I have two additional sisters and a brother, and I'm not close to them. I mean, we are all good, but it's not like what me and my older brother have. It's just me and and all our lives it's been like that. Like anything that happens to my brother, they always call me. Anything that happens with me, they always call him. We don't. It's never, oh, I'm gonna call your younger sister or younger brother. It's never that. I had fit. My brother was in the hospital maybe a few months ago, and my sister from Vegas called, and she called me. She didn't call our mom. She did. She came straight to me. What's going on? What happened? And see, that's usually how it goes. So in families, when there's multiple children, these are the things that goes on. So I'm coming up on my 30 minutes, and I'm going to start wrapping this up. So because guys, until I get to 1,000 subscribers, I can't go beyond there. I can, but they don't like YouTube. Don't like it when you're a new content creator. They want you to keep your videos to 30 minutes or less, so I can be pushed through the algorithm. Because if I do it more than 30 minutes and I don't get enough views or likes, then my video won't pick up any traction. So that's why. So I'm trying to bring this home. So usually, with siblings, this is what really goes on. And then you have some siblings that really hate each other. I saw a clip on the ID channel about these Asian sisters, twins, as a matter of fact, and one of the twins hated her sister. Matter of fact, she plotted to unalive her and steal her identity because she was more so of the, the hustler of the family, just, whatever job she can find. She'd live here, live there, where her other sister was, productive. She had a great job, a nice home. She was doing well for herself. So that's why I said you have siblings that cannot stand each other. So when I say can't stand, I mean hate, where they want to take them out. So that that has happened as happens as well. But a lot of times these things stems from growing up, like things that happen in childhood, where one child feels as though the parents just doted or gave way more to their older brother or younger sister, or whoever. That's usually how how that happens, because when you're in a family with multiple children, these are the things that happen, and then the parents have to choose sides. I Like, for me, I only have two children, so my kids band together regardless. They used to plot against me when they were little, so like I said, you have to have at least three children, because both my kids are spoiled for different reasons. My son was the firstborn, and my daughter is the youngest, and she's a girl. He was the firstborn, and he's a boy. So they're both spoiled in different ways. So as far as that's concerned, that's a tie, because they both were spoiled for different reasons, but they both get the same amount of attention basically, but in different ways. That's the thing. You can't tell them that, because my daughter thinks that I favor my son, and my son thinks that I favor my daughter. So go figure. But when you're dealing, well, in my case with my siblings, like I said, me and my brother are very close. And me and my sisters, we're fine. It's not that we don't, we don't beef or none of that. And, we were okay growing up. It wasn't like that. It's just that we weren't close like that. And it's just me and my older brother. We're just the closest. We talk every day. We've been, we're in each other's like, even growing up, if I went to a party, he wanted to know where I was going, and then he would show up with my cousin. Just little things like that. Like, it was, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's just him and I just have a closeness that we just don't have with our other siblings. Maybe because we're the oldest, maybe that's it. Because my younger brother is 5 years younger, and then my other sister is 3 years younger, and then I have a sister that is 21 years younger. That is my youngest sister. My mom had a change of life, baby. Lord, was we shocked. and you would think I would be the closest to, like, maybe even my youngest sister, but it's not. It's me and my older brother, and it's just always been that way. I don't, I don't know why, but it's just always been that way. That's why I said we just, and my other siblings, they can't stand it. But both of my sisters don't like that him, that he's the closest with me. They don't like that because they feel as though they don't get his attention or time. But I don't know how else to put it. I don't know what to say. I guess it's because we were close in age. We're 9 months apart, and we grew up together. So I guess I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna close this out because I'm at the 33 here mark, and I'm coming back with another video. I just promised to get this one up. And I'll be back again because I'm not quite sure. Oh, I got to do Psychology Women Part 4. All right. I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. All right, gang. See you soon. Have a good one. Guys, be safe. And I don't know when this video is going up, if it's before the election or after. But whenever it is, please be safe, guys, because it's really crazy out here right now. It really is. All right, guys. Have a good one.